proximity where they have to figure it out, like a historical marriage of convenience. Anything where the characters they can't escape each other. I love that stuff, and I feel like one of the reasons why Wolf Shifters is my favorite is because he's like, that's my fated mate. She might be crazy or she might be horrible, but the one for me. I'm going to figure out how to make this work. So that's my catnip.
That is awesome. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So this is going to be an interesting question. But considering your background, your screenwriting background, why did you choose, how did you choose between traditional publishing and independent publishing? Like, what led you to or away from one or the other? Like, what went into that decision for you?
I do remember that when I was first starting out, that I did send out 30 some odd query letters, and I heard nothing back. Cricket, not a peep. And I'm kind of sitting there like, I put on television shows that are on all across the world, and nobody's writing me back. So I got a little bit, egotistical about it. And then I realized, I grew up as a media person. I did a lot of cable television and independent television. I worked with a lot of independent filmmakers, and I'm like, I know how to do this myself. I don't need a conglomeration around me. I can do this. I know how to market. I know how to do all this stuff. So let me go and do all this stuff on my own. And I'm also a bit of a control freak. Mm-hmm. I say a bit. Read total. I'm a total control freak. So, I was hearing stories of people getting, a small percentage, and that their publishers weren't doing very much for them. And then, my world that I write are full of people of color, and they weren't getting. I remember always going into bookstores, and they would have an African American section, and that would always confuse me, because I was like, I want paranormal romance, but with people of color. So why? And you haven't broken this out, this African American section. You just have it alphabetical. That doesn't help me, So there were all these pieces that were like, you know what? Let me try this myself, and I just didn't look back. I understood. One of the things we learn in media is how to target an audience and how to talk to them and how to engage them. And I'm like, I know this stuff. Let me try. And I tried, and I did.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. That is awesome.
So, now, piggybacking on that, you said that you loved being independent and doing your own thing. Now, you, on your website, have a section for authors, and you do workshops. Tell us about your workshops and how we can sign up as authors. So
I taught in higher ed for 15 years. Well, remember, when I went into television, I was doing documentaries, which is basically a teaching tool. Documentaries and children's television, which is basically a teaching tool. So education is just in my blood. 2 of my degrees are in education because I was determined to be the next Sesame Street workshop. That's a whole other life. But when I came out of teaching higher ed and became a full-time author, I still had that bug of wanting to explain things to people. So if someone would ask me a question and I'd take 10 minutes to explain it to them, because I had to explain all the different moving parts and how they fit together and how to pull them apart. So I decided that was going to be my outlet, that I had all these lesson plans. I had all these worksheets. I had all these lectures. Let me do something with them. And I understood how to break things down and how to teach it to people. And I was like, I'm probably not going to go back into teaching because I don't want to grade. I don't want to grade anymore, and I don't want to go to staff meetings anymore. But I said I can still give this information out to people, either at low cost or no cost. I have a YouTube channel, and everything up there is free. And I literally, it's just me sitting at my computer saying, oh, look, I'm going to do a Facebook ad today. This is how I find my Facebook audience. Watch me do this, and let me explain to you step by step on how you could do this for yourself. So I'll explain that, or I'll put up some some classes with RWA, which are like email classes, which are just the lectures that I've had over the years, and I just made them in bite-sized chunks with to-do lists and examples that you can just do. So the places to find me are to just look up my name on YouTube to find all that free content. And with RWA, I believe RWA posts a calendar of workshops. Because sometimes I don't even remember that I'm teaching something until somebody emails me. But luckily, all the lessons are already there, and I just need to start sending them out. So those are the best ways to find out what I'm teaching and how to get access to things.
Wonderful,
Great.
wonderful. So, yeah. Wow. I am so glad that you came on the show tonight. I really am. So I have a question about marketing, because I think it's one of the things that can be really challenging for authors, more so sometimes than even writing the book. And I want to know if you have any suggestions for independent authors starting out now to avoid some of the pitfalls that can really be financial drains early on.
It depends on your goals, guys. It really does. When I first started writing, I just had stories to tell. I told the types of stories that I wanted to. I always tell people the very first book that I published was a menage romance where the swords crossed, meaning the guys were in love with each other too, as well, and they both were in love with the woman. And it was like futuristic, dystopian, with a bit of magic in there, and I love that story. And then I put out Pumpkin, and I couldn't understand why the people who read my menage dystopian bisexual romance weren't coming for Pumpkin, the contemporary fairy tale retelling that was interracial, and vice versa. Why didn't the Pumpkin readers want to go and read my menage dystopian sci-fi whatever? Two entirely different audiences, and I didn't understand that. That menage I wrote just because I loved it. I was like, yes, these two guys are in love with each other and they're in love with her, woohoo! And Pumpkin I wrote because of an experience, and I wanted to see a mother get that second chance at love. So those books both came from the heart, and again, they had two different audiences. So if you go into this writing a book from your heart, and you're not sure who the audience is, you're going to have a tougher time. It doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed. It's just going to, the path is just not going to be as clear and as smooth for you. After those books, I realized that I wanted to start making money. I was starting to get burned out with teaching, and I wanted to just write my stories. That's when I looked into writing to market. I looked to see who was the biggest audiences out there of the types of books that I like to read. I only write kissing books. So I knew it was going to have to be in romance. I love paranormal romance. It's a very crowded market. I also will sit and just binge watch the Hallmark Channel. So I knew sweet romance was a hot thing, and there weren't a lot of authors in the sweet romance genre at that particular time. So when I started to think of to make money and get strategic about it, that's when one of the tools I use is called the K-Lytics report, K-Lytics, Lytics report. And the person who does that, they put out different genre reports, and they will tell you what's selling, what genres, the price, the everything. The reports are fantastic. So I went and I got the clean romance report, the sweet and clean, wholesome romance report, and I saw in there that Western was doing well, Western romances, military romances, marriage of convenience, and titles with brides was doing really well. I took that knowledge, knowing I wanted to write to market and I wanted to have a best-selling series. And when I saw that those were the books that were doing well, I decided I figured out how can I put these together. And I came up with the idea to write a sweet contemporary romance set on a ranch with wounded warriors who were military. They were on a rehabilitation ranch, but the only way that they could stay on that ranch and continue to get the healing was if they got married because of a zoning restriction that said that they had to, only families could live on the ranch. Put those books out there with the right covers, had bride in the title. You could see that it had soldiers, but you could also see that it was on a ranch. Those books shot through the roof. The audience was easy to find because I knew that they were the ones that were hungry and looking for that kind of book. My menage bisexual romances, they might sell a couple dollars a week because no one's really looking for that. Pumpkin, she still does well, but not a lot of people are looking for that specific type of book. My shifters, my dragons do well because people are always looking for that. So if you're doing this for the passion because you have a story that needs to be told, tell that story. Let your heart speak. You just know that it might be difficult to find your audience. But if you're coming into this with a specific goal of making money, the specific goal of being a bestseller, I highly encourage you to look at the best-selling charts and see what people are asking for. Because if you give it to them, they will give you their money.
Wow.
Great.
You hear that, folks? So, I'm so glad you said that, because you said two things that are really important that really resonate with me. One, write that book of your heart. Like, write that story, get that story out of your head. Gift that to yourself, and if you want to birth it into the world, go for it. But that may be something separate from building a career in writing that will actually pay the bills.
Yeah.
And like you said, give you that dream job, which is writing full time. Lisa, we have time for one more question.
One more crazy question. I'm going to make this one fun. You are a fan of Jim and the Hologram. Do you know? Do you know the jingle that that came on with the cartoon?
Jim's excitement. Of course, that was my jam. What are you talking about?
I love Jim and the Hologram.
Yes.
How did you feel about the movie that came out in 2015?
I don't know what you're talking about. Movie? What? Huh?
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with you.
There you go. Lisa trying to start something at the end of the show. All right. Well, we have about, 3 minutes left. Really 2. So, Ines.
I told you I talk a lot.
I know. Well, we do too, as you can tell, like once we get going. So are there any final words you want to say to our audience? Where can they find you on social media or any events that you have coming up? You can tell us in the next 60 seconds or so.
So honestly, the best way to I'm on Facebook, but not on Facebook. I go there. I really go there to do my ads and to go visit the groups and find out what's going on, like more of what's the marketing trends that are happening now. But the best place to learn from me, if you're an author, is to go to YouTube, where I'm just constantly putting up videos of my process, of giving you tips, of showing you behind the scenes of what I do, how I do it, and to give you kind of an idea of how you can do it for yourself. One of the best things, a piece of advice that I can leave you with as an author is I gave a talk called Know Your Why, because a lot of people get into this industry and they're just following somebody else's marketing plan, or they're following somebody else's game plan, or they're trying to write like somebody else. Like, I write every day. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm writing and I'm done by lunchtime. That's me. That might not be you. Don't try to walk in my shoes. Take a look at my path. See what makes sense to you. See what resonates with you. But you gotta do you and know why you're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. We hope that you will come back and maybe tell us about your latest series that's coming. We're definitely going to be keeping up with you and trying some of those classes. So tonight's podcast was sponsored by Messy Mandy and the Lunchtime Chronicles Season 3. 10 new short, hot, erotic romances starting October 14th. Join Lunchtime Dish with Messy Mandy Facebook group for cover reveals and all the feels. So until then, we will see you next time for Women on Words. Be awesome, be amazing, be wow. Ladies, have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, Inez. Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.